C's are just going to be in VC scans. You can check them if you
Right,
want to the potential. If you
Yeah,
want
go
to.
for it.
W fucking analogy, but I mean analogy, syllogism. W future, bro.
Great analogy right here. Let's see this. Where would it be at? Oh, he's using. Okay. So, do you want to explain your syllogism, or should I take a look at it and just go slowly, step by step by step?
Yeah, I can explain it for you first. So,
go for
this
it.
argument is just essentially the Aristotelian argument for God. Essentially, the argument just follows that there's going to be change that exists. And so change as defined in this argument is just going to be the actualization of a potential. And so the analogy that Edward Feser uses in his book is just that if I have...
Oh, it's the book I recommended for you. That's crazy.
That's what I was like, he's involved in?
No,
I haven't seen this argument used in a while. Wait, go ahead, explain.
Marky that
you said change is the
But
actualization of potential?
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, if I have, say, a coffee mug, right, that has coffee in it, obviously, you're going to say that this coffee over time will get cold. But at one point, the coffee is hot. And so it has the potential to get cold, but that potential is not yet actualized. And so the argument follows that change exists by the actualization of this potential. And in order for this potential to be actualized, something actual has to actualize it. For example, the cold air or the air conditioner. These things would be actual things that actualize the potential of the coffee being cold.
What?
So do you agree that change would exist, or is there any contentions you want to present so far?
I'm not going to nitpick your analogy because I don't think those are the only reasons it can, but I understand what you mean. Your definition in its face value form, I agree with it as far as change goes.
Okay, so would you agree that change thus exists?
Sure.
Okay, so if change exists, right, you'd agree that, okay, essentially the next step or the next stage of this argument is to define the difference between a linear causal series and a hierarchical causal series. So the causal series that I'm positing is going to be a hierarchical one, not a linear one. And so it's essentially just
questioning. And could you clarify? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So for example, let's look back at the coffee mug analogy. So obviously I'd ask, why does this coffee coffee exist at any point in time, right? And you'd say maybe because it's composed of water or something like that. That could be a possible answer. But then we're led into the question of, well, why is the potential for this coffee composed in such a way? Because obviously the things that make up coffee is a composite of like coffee beans, milk, sugar, all of these things. Why is the potential for this thing actualized in this way? Why can it be actualized in a different way? And so essentially, if you look at it in this way, a hierarchical causal series is going to always have a first member, because it would need to have something that explains why each thing or each potential is actualized in this way, if that makes sense.
So are you saying that, I'm assuming you're using some type of reasoning, you're saying that, and for whatever reason, I still don't understand fully what you mean by hierarchical causal series, but to my assumption, what I can assume is that you're saying that change being the, actualized potential, or at least one actualized potential of what something could be and gradually transform into, is always needed a reason or an explanation behind this, given the change of its state of existence. Is that what you're getting at?
Wait, can you summarize the question in a more concise manner? Sorry, I was reading chat. I'll try to pay attention more. Can you say it again?
Bingo, change, you have explanation.
Yeah, change, I believe, is necessary for a change to have an explanation.
You think change is okay? And that's what I'm assuming that's the first claim you're gonna get at.
As in, change is it's necessary for change to have an explanation. Yes.
Why?
So obviously in this case, explanation is going to be synonymous with some form of like causal antecedent. And so when I say that change necessarily has an explanation, to assume the contrary is to assume that change has no causal antecedent. So change just comes from nothing. And I think that this claim is just going to be something that's absurd. It can't exist.
Yeah, so explain, what's that word you're using to say that explanation is synonymous to this? What are you talking about?
So when I say explanation is synonymous to a causal antecedent, I'm just saying that
Slow it down. I have
explanation.
no idea what sentence you just said.
Yeah, so I'm
That
saying
will
that
be
when
long.
I say that, yeah, I apologize. So when I'm saying that change is synonymous with a causal antecedent, what I mean is that, or not change, explanation is synonymous with a causal antecedent. Explanation is just going to be something that depends on something else to exist. So, for example, if, or this is going to be like a very common analogy, if I'm born, right, you could say that in terms of like analyzing time or whatnot, I depend on my mother to exist. And counterfactually, if my mother did not exist, and it is possible that I would not exist. And so when I use the words change as a or explanation as a causal antecedent, I
Hey,
simply just
you
mean
got
what
better.
we depend
Oh,
on
my
to
bad.
exist.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I simply just
I
mean
was
what we
gonna say
depend.
he picked up a new word.
Yeah, I just want to.
Counterfactually.
Yeah, so when I say, um, yeah, it's simply what we depend on to exist, or what caused us to begin to exist. If that makes sense,
Okay.
depending on your theory of time.
So that's fine. The logic of existence needing some type of, sufficient reason, we'll say, in that context, that's fine. Are you
Mhm.
using this logic to extend to everything that's potential has been actualized? Because then I'd question the logic of that, of how you're
Every,
bridging that. Because
yeah,
obviously, within a normative sense, if you're born, you're going to have, some type of explanation behind you. But there are
mhm.
some things that come to existence that we just have no explanation of our exhaustive knowledge. You would agree to that, right?
Like things that. Okay, are you saying that there are things that begin to exist or come
I
into
think there are
existence
things
that?
that I think there are things that do exist that we have no, knowledge of how it came to be, if it came to be, whatever, within our exhaustive knowledge. There are some things that we just do not know. You would agree?
Yeah,
No?
yeah. It's
Right, right.
possible, right? And I'm saying that's fine. I just don't
It's
think that those two.
possible that we don't know.
Yeah, as in it's possible that there are some things that we exist that or that exist that we don't have knowledge of whether they or like their
I think
causes,
it's
right?
necessary.
It's necessary, like in what
I
sense?
think it's a necessary fact that there are some things that happen to exist that we just have no idea of its origins of existence, or whether it became to exist, to its origins of existence, whether it
Yeah,
even has an origin of existence.
yeah, no.
I think
So
there are some
I,
things, that are outside of our exhaustive knowledge, given
yeah,
the
I'm
fact that
gonna
we are all within a limited knowledge scope.
yeah, I understand the claim. I'm gonna disagree with a certain aspect of it, but disagree with the next aspect of it. Now, I do agree that within our
Mm.
like epistemic access, there are gonna be some things that we just have no idea how they came to be. For example, the beginning of the universe. No one really knows how the universe began to exist. There are some theories and leading theories, but there's no concrete evidence that leads to any, interpretation. However, I don't believe that this is evidence for the idea that just because we don't know how something began to exist, thus it didn't have an origin of existence. And I think that the idea that creation ex nihilo is impossible extends to all things that could exist.
I see. And you're saying from this, no, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't listen to what you said. Can you repeat?
Okay, yeah, yeah. So essentially, I'm saying that just because something, or just because we don't have the knowledge of how something began to exist, does not necessarily mean that it didn't have an explanation for why it began to exist. And so, like, the argument for creation ex nihilo being impossible will just apply to all things that could possibly begin to exist, regardless of whether it's within our epistemic access or not.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. Now I understand what you're saying. So no, no, no. What I'm deriving at is that if we have things that are outside of our exhaustive knowledge, that we don't have no idea how it came to exist, if it came to exist, we just know that it does exist. That puts into question what scope and what are you hinging it off to say that we have some type of way of measuring how something came to exist outside of our knowledge. Now, obviously, this idea is applicable to some things, right? We obviously know, you know, some things within the universe, they came to be while we were not, here, but there are tools that we can use to measure when it came to be, trees, um, you know, different regions of the earth in itself, just different things that obviously would be outside of our immediate exhaustive knowledge. But what I'm putting into question is that we have some type of scope to understand or come to the conclusion on whether something had an origin of existence simply due to the fact that it does exist at the moment. That's what I'm putting into question. right? Because it seems that what we're deriving from your argument is that when you use, explanation synonymous to where you're using previously, it seems that you're presupposing that every, actualized potential would have this explanation, which I'm really failing to see how exactly you're positing that out there.
Okay, wait. So is your argument just going to be that with some things that
Oh, I'm just putting
existed,
it into question. That's all.
yeah, but is the argument that you just presented just going to, well, not the argument, but is your reasoning that you
Right.
presented, I should say, going to be that there are some things that existed prior to humans, but we have tools that we can use to like examine and measure these things. However, with things that are outside of our knowledge, we don't have the tools to measure these things. So therefore, on what basis are we going to say that these things have causes? Is that your argument or your
I
reasoning?
mean, you literally just repeated like what I said, like word for word. So I'd assume you know the answer to that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So the scope that we're using is just going to be logic. So an example of this could just be that I don't know. Let's say in the year like 900, where people weren't as knowledgeable or scientific, right? People could question, right? Why does the sun give off light, right? That could be a question that people ask, right? Although we cannot, with their immediate knowledge or with their immediate like expertise and tools, they will not be able to derive an answer for why the sun gives off light. Right, they might say, "Oh, it's something divine," or this, and that. Right, they'll give possible explanations, but there's no concrete evidence that lends credence to any given interpretation. And yet that doesn't like dismiss or go against the idea that despite us not knowing how this thing began to exist or what causes this thing to exist, it still must have a cause for its existence. And I sent like the syllogism I'm using to show that this is like a logical necessity. This thing is logically impossible to occur. If you want to evaluate that.
Well, yeah, no, your analogy was just pretty off-putting to say the least. I mean, yeah, obviously, in the past we had the sun, that people were theorizing was some type of god. We had the earth when people were walking on flat grounds, they assumed the earth was flat in its entirety. We had people, older philosophers theorizing that water was the final form and that water was the final thing right here. See, the problem is with what you're saying is that, yeah, all of these things could have had no explanation, right? But they did have an explanation, right? This explanation was found gradually through this empirical evidence we were able to, develop due to the advancement of knowledges. I'm not saying that like everything has no explanation. I think that'd be a silly claim for me to make. Just like previously, I said that there are ways that we can find within, technology and modern scopes of knowledge to where we can understand and come to a conclusion. Hey, maybe there isn't a giant fat guy who's just super shiny in the sky staring at me during certain periods of the day. Maybe it's actually a star made of many properties that are, simply just within the center of the solar system. I mean, hell, even back then they thought the Earth was in the center of the solar system. We're not the center of anything. So I think the problem that you're coming to is that you're mistaking my argument. I'm questioning that there are things, or that everything can be explained throughout means of such, a scope. Because obviously we know that there are some things, many things, in fact, that are outside of our exhaustive knowledge, that are, well outside of the discussion of our sun, like you said, or like things in the past that people just haven't known. I mean, hell, there are vacuums, all types of theories in physics, whatnot, that we just have no idea about, that could lack an origin, could maybe not, lack an origin. There's things that I'm putting into question that I just don't think you fully understand.
Okay. So I think, Archie, the first thing that you're misunderstanding is like the existence of possible, or the possibility of something being created, creation ex nihilo. My argument aims to crumble and defeat that entire idea. I think it's impossible. And like the syllogism I sent, which I'm just going to read out because I'm not sure if you read it or not, it's just going to be that if nothing is the absence of all other properties, right? And the potentiality in of itself is a property. If I have the potential to, I don't know, become very smart one day, that's a property. It's a defining characteristic. And so if nothing has no potential to do anything, right, because it has no properties, nothing cannot cause, right?
Wait, what did you say?
So okay, nothing is the absence of all properties.
Okay.
Properties are going to be inclusive of potentiality. So, for example, if I have the potential to learn, if I have the potential to grow taller, these are all properties, despite them not being actualized yet.
This thing is lying.
Since nothing has no actual properties, nor does it have any potential properties, I think it's incoherent and absurd for us to say that anything can be caused by nothing, right? So that's just going to be the logical argument for it, which proves that it should be logically impossible. And in regards to like the reasoning you gave in regards to, you know, there are some things in physics such as vacuums and things such as that, you know, come into existence or could come into existence without causes. I think that logic is going to be the fundamental, the primary thing. So I don't think that physics ever contradicts or goes against logic explicitly. I think that there's always going to be some alignment or some compatibility with like, you know, logic in of itself, because obviously nature is supposed to be orderly and logic is order in of itself. It defines order. So I don't think that just because there are some things that, you know, we don't really have much knowledge on, that means that it's now possible for us to view these things as, you know, having no cause or brutally contingent. But if you're putting logic itself into question, and I can also present an argument for that as well.
Archie, I'm not sure if like this is. Go for it.
What? Yeah, I was gonna adjust the contradiction for. Oh, what did you say?
I was gonna say that I'm not sure if this is necessary, even think this is relevant, but if you want, like, that's the summarization of C's argument or explanation.
Dumb as fuck, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, you can summarize it.
Yo, Forka, I swear you're light skinned, bro. You have to be light skinned, bro.
Like I said, the orderly position in logic is order, so logic.
That's not what I said, bro.
He's talking about Elden Ring law.
Yeah, but Archie, give your reputation. Don't forget to give your reputation.
What, Apollo?
You talking about?
Oh yeah, I was just saying that. Don't forget to give your reputation.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you wanted to clarify something. My bad.
So I just gave clarification in the VC scans. You can read it.
Okay. So essentially, see, for like your initial point that you were talking about, you were saying, you know, actually what Apollo said in chat, change invokes change invokes potentiality. Potentiality is a property and nothingness lacks property. You were saying that, nothingness, obviously being the absence of something, is incapable of birthing something. That would require the importance of something. Now, what I ask you, see, and what I put into question myself is, by this exact same logic, right? Because you keep using that word, logic. What logic are you deriving this from?
What do you mean, what logic am I deriving this from?
Because you keep using that word logic. You keep saying it would only logically follow. This would be provided by logic. This is backed up by logic. What logic are you deriving this from?
As in, where am I getting like the knowledge to make these premises?
Check the stats and profile.
Because you keep saying that that logic. I mean, you just previously defined logic as order.
Logic, see.
Exactly.
The system of logic. Can you give me an example?
Like what are you talking about?
Classical logic, non-classical logic.
Like in this case, it's just going to be classical logic, I suppose. I think that's the fundamental.
And how does this like justify like this right here? Like, what's the logical contradiction with nothingness providing something? Because you've named that nothingness, since it's the absence of something, it just can't. I'll just ask why.
I really don't like to interrupt this much as a judge, but like, C kind of like gave the explanation, but it was so fucking long to the point where you probably kind of like had like a snooze fest. Right? So do you want to like summarize the explanation for him or something?
No, it's fine. I'll try to make it more concise. It's fine, Apollo.
No, Apollo can summarize.
I'll just put it really short. So C's just saying that, as I've said in chat, causality invokes change. Change is necessary for there to be causality. And then he's saying for there to be change, there has to be potential. Like, for example, the coffee analogy. So he goes from here to say that because nothingness lacks property and potentiality is a property, then nothingness lacks the capability to actualize any cause because it lacks.
So is he saying like, in order for something to come in and change from that position of nothingness to somethingness, it would invoke this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then sure. If that's what you're saying specifically, then that's fine. I have no problem with that. I don't think that fully addresses what I'm doing.
So if okay, wait, I'll just ask you a series of yes or no
Go for it.
questions. Do you agree that nothing has no potential?
Yes.
And nothing has no potential?
Yeah, no potential properties.
I disagree.
So you think nothing does have potential?
I think
properties?
I think nothing has the potential to be something.
So then it wouldn't be nothing.
Not at all.
If
You understand nothing is the absence of something. And
Yo,
from the
everybody,
absence of something, there
go
can be
on Spotify.
something.
No,
Right?
nothing is just going to be the absence of all properties, not the absence of something. It's going to be the absence of properties.
No, that is literally the absence of something. Because
So
something would be a part of those properties.
Prove
See,
that.
if you had what's the antonym to nothing? Everything. And within everything, you'd have some things. If we were to say there is nothing there, see, that sentence would be grammatically correct because it's the absence of something. Correct.
In
Yes,
terms of like
that's how English works.
Yeah, in terms of colloquial usage, yeah, but I'm talking about.
No.
Well, I'll just ask. Yeah, because obviously, if I point to like an empty room and I say there's nothing here in this room, obviously there's going to be particles within this room. I'm just not referring to those things.
Do you understand? Well, hold on. If I say there is nothing right here, and I'm pointing at a specific area in my room, right? Would you assume A, that I'm saying there's nothing there in reference to particles? Would you assume B, there's nothing there in reference to some type of object that is supposed to be in the area that I'm pointing at, but at the moment that it's just not at? Or do you assume C, that I'm gaslighting you and I just want you to look there?
I'd assume B, but see, that's the thing.
Exactly.
So obviously,
well, hold on. That was just the initiating question. I just wanted your answer for that because I'm about to make a point.
Okay.
If there is something right there, right, something that is supposed to be right there, I'll clarify, but just isn't right there, that right there is the absence of something. But that right there, you can say nothing is there. That is still grammatically correct. Not in a colloquial sense, in a denotative sense. Because remember, nothingness is just the absence of something. Now, something, again, can be named everything. Everything in itself can be called a group, what we define as everything. So you can say there is an absence of everything, which should be nothingness, but that'd be false because there are things. So when you say nothing is there, it has to be in reference to some type of group or some type of property that is just lacking. I think it'd be false to define nothingness as the absence of everything in that sense.
Yeah, okay, so obviously colloquially, which is why I kind of wanted to like interject. Obviously colloquially, if someone points at something and say, oh yeah, there's nothing there, I'm not going to assume that they're talking about like the philosophical definition of nothing. I don't have an issue with the definition if you're not actually positing true nothing or nothing in the philosophical sense. Because just because there's nothing apparent to my vision, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing in that space. There can still be particles, there can still be things within there that I just can't see. There could be an invisible man that watches me when I go to sleep. There's no contradiction of these propositions. When I talk about nothing and when I talk about the contradiction associated with nothing having any sort of causal power, whether it's derivative or non-derivative, it's just going to be that if nothing is the absence of all properties, and properties are inclusive of the set of not just actual properties, but also potential properties, what's going to be the case is that nothing cannot cause, because nothing has no causal properties. Nothing cannot begin to exist or become something because nothing has no potential to become anything. Nothing is nothing. Now, if you want to posit that nothing does have these things and does have the potential to exist and does have the potential to become things, I simply just don't think that's nothing, right? Because in order for something to have a property, in order for a property to be assigned to something, it needs to be a thing. It needs to be actual. It needs to exist. And so that's just going to be my argument against your definition. And we can choose what definition we want to operate under.
Yeah, that's just false. So let me explain something to you. You would agree at one point humans were not a thing, right?
Humans were not a thing?
No.
Yeah, at one point humans were not a thing.
Please say yes.
You would agree, right?
As in they didn't exist in actuality.
As in they were not a thing. You would agree, right?
As in they didn't exist in actuality.
As in they weren't a thing. You would agree, right?
In actuality, sure.
As in they weren't a thing, right?
Yeah, I already said in actuality, sure.
Right. You keep trying to word around that. It's just a simple yes or no, really.
In actuality.
But if they weren't a thing at all.
No.
If they were a thing, no, they were not a thing.
No, they had the potential to exist. If they didn't have the potential to exist, they wouldn't.
Is potentiality actuality? Because it's within your own argument that you're misdefining this at the moment.
No. I don't think that potentiality is actuality. They're different concepts. I'm
See.
saying that your argument seems to create like this ambiguous statement that says, "Oh yeah, were humans a thing? No, humans came from nothing to something. No, I think humans had the potential to exist. I also believe that humans existed just in a different
Wait,
form.
Apollo, you just heard that? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
what's-
listening.
That's
I'm
facts.
listening.
That's
I'm
facts.
just chilling.
What proof?
I agree with you, C. I agree with you. Continue.
What?
Yes, exactly. So humans had the
Mm.
potential to exist. So although they didn't exist in
So
the same
potentiality is actuality.
potentiality is and what do you mean potentiality is actuality?
So that's what you're saying. Potentiality is actuality.
No, I don't think potentiality
No,
is
so
actuality.
so the potential doesn't invoke the actual existence of something.
The potential actually, yeah. So I'll explain what I mean.
Holy
See,
shit!
I don't know
So-
what I don't
so
know
let
what
me-
you mean by this.
over.
Wait, can I answer the question? Sorry,
fuck is
I don't
going
want to do this again.
Go ahead. It's
Oh, yeah,
You
like, for
had it in the bag. You had it in the bag. See.
Apollo.
Go ahead.
chill, bro.
Continue.
Yeah. So what I mean, right, is like, for example, with water, because you like to point towards water as an analogy. Water is H2O, right? So obviously, I would say the potential for water to be water is being actualized right now. But any skeptic might ask, well, why is water's potential being actualized? Why can't it be actualized as independent elements such as hydrogen and oxygen? So obviously, in order for something to have
gracious.
potential to exist, it needs to exist in actuality. Yes. In that case, I don't think nothing can exist. Or nothing, if nothing did
Wow.
exist, it just
Yeah,
wouldn't.
that's not. Wait, see, is it okay if I can cut you off for a second? Because
Yeah,
that's
you
not
can
at
go
all what
ahead.
I'm saying.
Okay, go
So,
ahead.
see, listen, just for a second. Now, humans, when I say they did not exist, what do you pull from that? What do you think existence is? What do you think it means to exist?
Existence is to be in a certain form.
What?
Yeah.
What are
For
you
example,
talking about?
For example,
Do you
I can say
think
that
every form can exist?
I don't think that's relevant to what I'm saying. Like,
I think it's directly relevant.
What do you mean by
Do you
every
understand? Do you
form
think
can
every
exist?
form can exist?
Possible forms, so things that don't conflict with the laws of logic. Sure.
But do they exist?
Do they exist? Not in actuality, not at every present moment in time.
Exactly. So see, if you have something, for example, take it 10,000 years ago. See, 10,000 years ago.
Mhm.
I think that's a. I won't be
No,
risky.
make it
100,000 years ago. 100,000 years ago. Would you say humans existed?
Not in the form that they do now. No.
No. So what form? See, I'm curious.
So, like, obviously, if you want to go for like abiogenesis, humans wouldn't exist in the sense that we're not Homo sapiens, but they came from something. So that something had the potential to become. Yeah, can I finish? Sorry, I think this is important. I want the
Bro.
judge to hear it. So
Yeah, for
obviously,
real.
100,000. Yeah, so obviously, 100,000 years ago, humans did not exist in the form that they are now. However, they did exist in a different form. They wouldn't be humans, but they would be something, right? And that something had the potential to become a human over time, and that potential was actualized by other external, extrinsic factors.
Become a human.
Yes,
Interesting.
as in,
See, what
yeah,
did
go
I
ahead.
just say?
You said, did humans exist?
And you said humans existed in another form.
Yes, as in they came
Were those
from
humans
somewhere.
back then?
Wait, what'd you say?
Were those humans back then? See,
Were those humans back then?
100 years ago.
Nope, they were not humans. They
100,000
became
years ago. My bad.
No,
Were those
no.
humans?
You can
What were they,
see.
see? What was
they
the
were
Earth
like
100,000 years ago?
You
the
can
Earth
see
100,000
that.
years ago? I don't know, bro. Would you like to conclude?
You don't know? I know you don't know.
Would you like to conclude?
like, listen. 100,000 years ago. What do you think we had, see?
Would you like to
Do you think
conclude?
that? Do you think that there were humans roaming around? You know what humans are defined as, right?
Would you like to conclude?
Any member of Homo sapiens. Do you understand what a Homo
See, if he's
sapien is?
continuously speaking, that means he doesn't want to conclude. Just engage with that.
Apollo, I think
Do
he's
you
reiterated.
do you understand that you can think that? That's fine. You
Okay,
try
go
to
ahead.
interrupt
Yeah, for real.
my
Get him,
point so
Archie.
you can push to conclusions because you got caught. It's
Yeah,
not
I
really
got
going to
caught.
work this time.
I got
Now
caught.
listen, you understand what do you think a human is?
A human is a certain composition of like elements and compounds.
False. A human is any member of Homo sapiens. What do you think Homo sapiens are?
Homo sapiens is just going to be a certain composition of elements and compounds.
False.
False.
Homo sapiens is a species to which all modern humans belong to. Were we modern 100,000 years ago?
Modern just going to be a relative term. I don't think it exists.
That's fine. So we're going to define modern for you. Within this definition, it would be referring to any human within this era, right? To where we have the exact same cognitive skill, right? The same bipedalism, the same hairlessness in our body. We're not a bunch of monkeys running around, right? We're evolved. Now, were we within this state 100,000 years ago?
I'm agnostic. That's going to be an empirical claim.
That's fine. You can think you can think that because clearly you're not agnostic because you just made a claim previously. So was that claim also agnostic when you said that humans existed 100,000 years ago? Was that also agnostic? See,
that's not what I said. You want to conclude?
That's not what you said.
That's not what I said. You want to conclude?
You didn't say humans exist in a different form.
To add us conclusion.
It is as Archie.
Oh, yeah, of course. Because clearly we're all schizophrenics. Now, I'm not going to conclude unless you're referring to specifically this point, because I'm still going to address your non-existent point.
Just to be
unless
clear,
you're referring to this point.
Just to be clear, see, I cannot force conclusions unless it's consensually or mutually agreed upon, I should say. Okay.
Yeah. So Archie,
and I also don't have any moderator terms either, and I'm not going to mute either for you guys.
That's fine. Sakizuki's moderating. If I'm aping, mute.
Okay.
Yeah, Archie, would you like to conclude on this point then?
This specific point. So clarify what you mean by point.
This point is in. Actually, you can clarify. I wanted to conclude on the whole argument.
Yeah, you want me to what? Conclude on the whole argument to where I haven't addressed the nothingness part? You think you can out-rat a rat? You moron! What are you talking about?
Sorry? No, that's not what I meant.
Absolutely
when I said I want to conclude on everything that's been discussed because I don't think you provided.
Which was the nothingness point? Why are you trying to gaslight?
However, if you
well, to be fair, let me just clarify for C. What he's basically trying to say here is that he wants to conclude on every single point regarding not only the nothingness point, but also why it is logically impossible for there to be some contingent factor, some contingent entity without any causal explanation. That's what he wants to conclude on.
Yeah, I want to address. I'll address the nothingness point and the logical contradiction point.
Yeah,
and then we can conclude.
Yeah.
So basically, for furthermore clarification, because on this point was just ridiculous. But the whole point of us even getting into it was this: nothingness has potential. You're probably wondering. Nothingness is the absence of something. When we have the absence of something, there is potential that something can exist. Right? You would agree?
No way.
No, under my definition of nothingness, no.
Okay.
Bro, Archie, that's
fine.
crazy.
So,
can I just... See, can I ask you a question?
Are you asking me a question?
No, I'm trying to get something clear. I agree with you with the idea that your definition of nothingness is the absence of all properties, which would encompass potentiality. When Archie, I don't know who that spook is, but shut the fuck up. When Archie asked you the question, which is potentiality an actual thing? You said no. So is it or is it not something? Like if potentiality, if by your own words you say potentiality is not an actual thing, then that means you categorize it as something which is not. It is not an actual thing. It's nothing. Correct?
No. That's not what I meant. So potentiality is still going to be a thing in actuality. That's why I clarified with the humans thing. Humans existed like when I said humans existed in a different form. I realized that was like a weird thing to say or weird thing to phrase. I just wanted to avoid the whole accidental agreement thing that Archie tries to do with every debate I have with him. When I say that humans existed back then, I meant that back then there were things like, I don't know, amino acids and other such compounds that had the potential to be composed in such a way. Can I finish? Like, what's going on, bro? But anyways, what I was saying was back then there were things such as amino acids.
Oh, also, by the way, Apollo, you have moderation perms now.
Sorry, can I finish? Yeah, please.
Hey, Apollo.
So, what I was trying to say was,
hey, what's up, hey? Okay, continue, see.
Yeah, thank you. So what I was trying to say was back then there were things such as amino acids. Can you mute him, bro? Like, I'm trying to get words.
Don't worry, you can just continue speaking. Don't mind him.
Big words for me, bro. I have to like focus to not stutter, bro. Please.
I'll mute up.
Nah, it's easy to speak while someone else is speaking without stutter. Just focus.
All right, bro.
I'll just talk.
Okay.
It's fine.
Enter Nirvana, bro. Be enlightened.
All right, cool. So what I was saying was back in 100. See, I already started. I already fucked it. Okay, I'll try again.
So back in 100,000. Already fucked it. Quoted by C.
Back in 100,000 years ago. Humans did not exist as in like an actual thing, as in they were not there. However, they still existed in potentiality. And I think that potentiality can only be ascribed to actual things. So potentiality in this case, it would be a thing. It just wouldn't like currently exist in that moment in time, if that makes sense.
So they're a thing,
Are
but
you
not
sure,
an actual
C?
thing.
Are you sure you just said that
Interesting.
and you believe that?
So
You subscribe to B
wait,
theory.
hold on.
I don't see an issue with this.
So I have a question. So you're saying that they didn't exist, but you're saying potentiality is an actual
No.
thing.
They existed, just not at that point in time. Do you subscribe to B theory?
No.
Okay, I'll explain what B theory is. B theory
I
is
just
gonna
said,
be like,
how do I not subscribe to something I don't know?
yeah, you don't know it. That's why I'm
Oh, I
fucking
got unmuted.
explaining it.
You're
Can I
unmuted.
finish?
I
I'm
don't
spurting
know
it.
it, but I don't subscribe to it. I
Yeah,
could
you don't know
subscribe
it.
to it if I didn't know it.
Is.
How
I'm
would you
gonna
know that?
explain what it is. That's why you will know it once I explain it to
Do you know B?
Archie.
Wait, hold on. Do you know B
Oh.
theory? C?
Yeah, I know what B theory is. Want me to explain it to you, Archie? I'll
Do you know
educate
A
you the
theory?
rest. I know what A theory is as well, presentism. That's fine.
And do you know C theory?
C theory, I'm not too familiar.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, B theory or block theory of time is just going to be the idea. Anyways, B theory or block theory of time is just going to be the idea that time is not necessarily the progression of events, but rather just like a dimension, right? And so in this theory, things can exist in actuality without existing at specific moments in time. So they're still actual, they just don't exist at that particular point, if that makes sense. Not that there's nothing there, there is still something there, just not at that point in time. But they still exist overall in the grand scheme of
Do you
reality,
see?
in the universe.
Was that your explanation of B theory?
Pretty much, yeah, man.
Wow,
bro.
Okay.
As in the past,
Interesting.
present,
Monkey.
Well,
as
here.
in the past, present, and the
Do you
future all
understand?
exist simultaneously.
You understand what? I'm assuming you understand what tenseless is, right?
Tenseless theory of time, yes.
Huh? Nigga.
Tenseless.
Wow.
Do you want me to just like give the actual definition of B theory or something?
I was just about to give that, but go ahead. Yeah.
So B theory of time is just eternalism. It just states that the past, present, and future are
Right.
equally real metaphysically.
They're
But that's not to say that
tenseless.
time is not. That's not to say that under B theory of time, a B theorist does not believe that time is a progression of events. There's still a progression of events. It's just going to be the case that the future exists already.
There's no distinct difference between it. Like it's
God,
saying there are no like irreducible, like.
But I get what C's
properties of like future, presentness, and pastness, and that all of these, like manifolds, they're just tenselessly existing, ordered through B relations.
Yeah. So
but C's point still stands. What he just kind of like tweaked on the definition. What he's basically going to try to argue, is just that even though they don't exist currently from our perspective of time, again, time is just going to be relative to like the observer's frame of reference.
No,
so
I
still
understand.
Exists in reality, but
I just don't ascribe to that. As I said previously, before he went into his nonsensical rant, I do not subscribe.
Okay, yeah. So, first and foremost, I just want to say I feel like you guys are kind of being a bit uselessly pedantic. I think my definition that I gave is perfectly suitable for my argument. But Archie, if you don't subscribe to B theory, then we're going to run into some immediate problems, right? So if you don't subscribe to B theory,
I think you're dishonestly accusing me of being pedantic.
I wasn't accusing you. Sorry, I was accusing
you. Just said, and I think you're immediately accusing me as well. I don't subscribe to it. You asked me whether I do, and I said I don't.
I just take you guys to be something which is pure noun, but I guess you have a different perspective.
This shit is really getting to me. Sakazuki, can you moderate there?
But for real though, stop interrupting. C. Like, let's just cut the jokes.
I've been trying to get the same argument out for like the past 10 minutes.
You can speak.
Okay. So basically, right now, he just wants you to prove B theory of time.
That's what I'm trying to do. So obviously, the argument for B theory of time is just going to be that if we don't subscribe to B theory, there's just going to be some contradictions, right? So under
let me mute my mic real quick. Hello.
Yes. So under A theory. So under A theory of time, right? If we assume that the future does not exist, but is yet to exist, I should say, and that the past has ceased to exist, and the only thing that does exist is the present, then potentiality will not actually exist. The potentiality will not exist. And that would assume creatio ex nihilo, which I've already proven is impossible. And so the only coherent
impossible.
I already gave the syllogism. I already gave the syllogism.
Yeah. Anyways, why do you think under A theory that it just wouldn't be possible? I think that's silly.
Already gave.
Do you understand what potentiality? You didn't, but do you understand what potentiality? Do you understand what potentiality is?
Yeah, I know what potentiality is.
Do you understand what potentiality is? Right. What is it?
Understand what potentiality?
Potentiality is just the potential existence of something.
For real?
Yeah. So
now, do you understand? Obviously, if there's a potential of something's existence, that means that existence is not warranted yet.
Really?
Yeah. So
correct.
I don't know what you mean by existence is not warranted yet. It just seems like
existence not warranted. What I mean by that is simply that its existence is not within a state of actuality yet. Its existence, almost you can think of it as being put on pause. Its existence is not happening yet. It's almost like it's almost like you can think of it as you know, what do you talk about?
Yeah, so I think you conceded. Can I explain why?
Being a little
why did I concede?
Yeah, so Paul, I hope you're listening to this because I think this is very important. So obviously, or under what you said, which is just that potentiality.
What's up?
Yeah, I want you to listen.
He thinks I conceded. Why exactly?
Yeah, so essentially, he's advocating for the A theory of time. He's saying that under A theory of time, its existence has not yet.
When did I say I was under A theory of time?
I said you're advocating for it. The argument.
When did I advocate for A theory of time?
No, he just asked you the question, which is why is it the case that under A theory of time, this thing is going to be impossible? Like he's not advocating for A theory nor B theory. He's just going to be saying that he rejects B theory.
God. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, he's not advocating for A theory of time. Bro. It's fine. He's not oh my lord. Oh my lord. If this shit isn't biased, I don't know what it is, bro. Okay.
Wait, how is it biased? No. See, for real, like I found it funny when you're like you're
he really probably thinks you're winning right now because there's only one point I have to address.
Apollo, you're out here, right? And I'm trying to make arguments, and then you're like zooming in on the most like useless shit.
He was clarifying because you had a mistake.
Whether he's advocating.
Wait. So you're saying that when you talked about Archi going on A theory of time, that's a useless point?
Let me finish my statement.
That's the point I was talking about.
Can I finish my statement? When I say that he's advocating, I simply just mean that he's saying this thing is possible, that there's no contradiction of A theory. That's what I meant.
When did I?
You know what? At this point, okay. See, wait. Before you guys continue, at this point, see, I think that you might need to pick another judge. Like, I think that your formative English language is just radically different from the normal people. Like you literally say no. Like you literally say that something. Like you literally like use the weirdest definitions. Like you say when by advocate, all I mean is chicken. Like dude, like. No,
that's not what I said.
I advocate when you're saying someone advocating for something, you need to defend something.
It's not what
using a very core definition.
I'm giving an example. I'm not saying that's what he said. Yeah, you said that when Archi was advocating for something.
You guys are making it so I'll lose my train of thought. Stop it. It's actually annoying.
I can keep back on the train of thought. Oh
my god.
I can tell you which point you're going to actually argue right now.
Let me just respond.
I can help you out.
Let me just respond.
Go for it. So I just don't like when you criticize me as a biased judge. I don't like that. I'm offended.
Anyways, yeah. And when I say advocated, what I mean is that you're proposing that this thing is possible. I'm saying that you conceded this position because you're saying that if X under
what position did I concede to?
You conceded the position that A theory is possibly possible, possibilistically possible.
Possibly possible?
I'm saying it's not possible. That's the consistent that you concede. The reason why you conceded this definition is going to be simple. Essentially, you're saying that if X's existence has not yet been warranted, X does not exist. If X does not exist, right?
Nigga, what are you talking about, bro?
Oh my god,
bro! Nigga, what are you talking about, bro?
I couldn't even.
Out of your ass.
Yo, I couldn't even.
Chill for real, yo, guys.
I have Archi. There's no cordiality. There's no moderation. It's just spugging, literally spugging.
No, I was gonna say.
I can't moderate. Like even if, like, let's say for example,
I can't even hear.
Let's say, for example, you're turning off Archi, I cannot mute you. I literally cannot right now. I'm not like holding my phone. I'm just like in the room at the moment.
Also, I can't even hear you. Well, I'm about to take off my headphones because I'm looking for my phone. So wait a bit.
It's just W rhetoric. Right? I promise you, I'm not gonna debate Archi again after this. Even if I lose judgment, I don't really care, bro.
Bro, you were actually doing well at the beginning. Now you're just losing confidence for no reason. Like what the fuck?
No.
He was cooking.
No. It's just gonna be no. Matter of fact, I'm just gonna type out the argument so I don't get cut off.
Yeah, just type it out or have a book or something.
You said C was crying about me? What? I was looking for my phone. Wait, I'm back. What were you saying? You said something about me not believing something is possibly possible.
Wow.
X equals nothing.
Yeah, that's
You see,
definitely
why are you talking to yourself?
possibly.
Goes to
Let's see, did the voices get it, bro?
that entails contradiction.
Oh, he's writing down an argument, I'm pretty sure. And I'm pretty sure he got me like
something
locally
up.
muted, so he cannot hear at the moment. So yeah.
Perfect.
Yes,
By the way,
well,
Apollo, I'm gonna address the nothingness point in the conscious, like nothingness leading into
okay,
something.
I'll explain the argument I just laid out. So Archie's exact
Good.
words, X's existence is not yet warranted. Under A theory, aka presentism, the past has ceased to exist and the future does not yet exist. If these two propositions are true, that means that the future does not exist. If X's existence is only within the future that does not exist, it follows that X does not exist. If the syllogism I presented before is not attacked substantially, and it follows that existence or something coming from nothing is impossible. X's existence does not exist.
Wait, chill, champ.
Nothing cannot come from something. Thus, X's existence would be impossible under A theory of time. Thus, it follows that presentism is false. Go ahead and respond.
Yeah, that is just a bunch of yappery. So if we're assuming under A theory of time that X has not existed yet simply because it exists in the future, that's false. It's saying that the present and anything within the past and anything within the past its existence has not yet been warranted. Now, existence is defined differently than it's defined under B theory, which simply began to lead into some type of false understanding, to which I'll get you the denotation of what existence is within its actuality rather than using your twisted definition of what existence is. It says existence is the fact or state of existing. Now, being within the state of existing, this is implicative of a current moment. Now, obviously, we can say, see, since you're like 12 or 11, right? We can assume 13 years ago, you did not exist. This is something we can assume due to your current age, right? You are within the state of existing, the current state of existing, but previously you were not within the state of existing. Under this definition, you wouldn't exist. It's not saying you do not exist at all, because you can deny the existence of something that happened within a certain time period does not mean to exist as a whole. Because again, things progress, things gradually progress into existence. For example, birth, right? That is the claim. And that's how things work, given your exact definition earlier in your analogy earlier, considering the fact that you literally said at one moment you were not born and then you were born.
Yeah. So
at one moment you didn't exist and then the next moment you did exist, right? Existence is simply defined differently under your definition, but that's not how most atheists subscribe to, right? They believe existence to be within states. Obviously, under B theory, if we're saying that time is tenseless, right? There's no distinct difference between the past, present, and future, and that the flow of time is only a subjective illusion of the human consciousness, and that the past, present, and future are equally real, and that this temporal becoming is not an objective feature of reality. Obviously, if we were subscribing to this, idea, then we're going to say that time is under the sequence of events, this instant sequence of events. But we're not talking about instantaneous sequences of events. We're talking about gradual sequences of events, almost within a linear line, right? For example, we could think of a number line. Obviously, if you go back on the number line, you go to the left, you're going to hit a negative. Within this negative, if you were to stop it right there and cut the future ahead, you will say that only the negatives and before exist. These 3s, 4s, 5s, these natural numbers, these rational numbers, they do not exist yet. But that's because the future, right, the line ahead is cut. This is how atheists view these things. These states of existence are still just coming ahead and gradually putting together, but the future and the rest is cut off because it has not happened yet. Obviously, if we're looking at a normal number line to where we're going from the negatives to the positives, gradually going from irrational numbers to rational numbers, then we're going to see something. This is how we represent B theory of time. These sequences are all happening all at once. So even under your own definition, right, you're misconstruing the definitions and how people view existence, and you're almost withholding your own personal definition when looking at a completely separate theory. So obviously you're going to come to the conclusion that it's contradictory if you're applying this specific definition to something else that is outrightly denying that definition. See?
I just want to shine the light on what I like to call genuine yap. Yap that has no substance, that's no content, has nothing to
No
add
irony
anything,
at all.
to the debate whatsoever. What he said is just a repetition, or it's going to be a repetition of
LBC.
his former argument, which I'm going to respond to very concisely, or at least I'll attempt to. Okay, first and foremost, the definition of existence being like to be, right, under the orthodox Oxford definition, whatever, doesn't change anything, right? It doesn't change the substance of my argument, doesn't change anything. My argument is just going to be that if something exists in the future and under presentism, the future does not exist, whether you want to say it does not exist yet or does not exist at all, the future does not exist under presentism. And so anything that exists in the future or within this realm also does not exist, right? If you say that in the future I'll become a doctor, you don't exist, right? That thing does not exist because the future does not exist, right? How can you be within something that does not exist and yet exist? It's absurd. It makes no sense. And thus, something does not exist. What does that mean? It's nothing, right? Nothing is the absence of all property. So there's nothing there, right? It's the same thing. If something is non-existent, it is nothing. If it's nothing, right? If it's nothing, right? Then under A theory, nothing cannot cause anything, right? So if that's the case, then this potential, right, either wouldn't exist, right, or it would exist. If it's A theory, either wouldn't exist, right, or if it's B theory, then it would exist. If it doesn't exist, if this potential doesn't exist, for example, with the coffee mug analogy, you have a hot coffee and has the potential to become cold, right? If this thing doesn't exist, then us saying that in the future the coffee will become cold is now cool. It's just now nothing becoming something. This potential just become something because it didn't exist. Now it does. We have no explanation for it, right? Under B theory of time, this coffee thing or this coffee mug does exist. It's just gonna have these like counterfactual causal relationships, which is like, for example, well, if I didn't turn on the AC, the coffee likely wouldn't get cold as fast as it did. But since I turned it on, it got cold as fast as it did. These counterfactual causal relationships can exist within B theory. Where in B theory, progression is just going to be like an illusion of the human mind. I think I've already shown why under A theory this thing is impossible. We can like just move on and conclude. I don't want to discuss this.
Okay. So I'd like a conclusion after this. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear any more from like, not being respectful to both of you guys. I don't want to hear any more like long speech on this. I think this point is even subsidiary. I don't even think it is relevant. But just to clarify, see, to understand your position, are you B theorist or an A theorist?
I'm a B theorist.
Okay, so this doesn't really make any sense to me, and I don't want to straw man or anything. But in your explanation, in your long-winded explanation, to be more specific, you talked about how in the hot coffee example, if something does not, or something has a potential to exist, that potentiality has not existed, right? So you're just referring to like the future state of events, and you're being an anti-realist about such. But that's going to be something which is incompatible with a B theory of time, whereas a B theorist is just going to say that when you're talking about present or past or future, all of these are relative to subjective conscious experiences, and in actuality, all of these things exist in reality. So I'm confused on whether you're actually a presentist or an eternalist. Because on one end, you're saying you're an eternalist, but then your explanation about time contradicts eternalism and it tells presentism. So I'm really perplexed on the matter.
No. So obviously I'm advocating for B theory. We'll make that clear now. So when I say that this coffee mug was not yet cold, right, or the coldness of the coffee mug did not yet exist, right, I'm obviously talking about in this present moment. So I'm opting for this illusion, and I'm explaining in the terms of this illusion of, progression, that at this point in time, if I take a photo of the coffee mug, right, the coffee mug is not yet cold. However, in future points in time, which obviously I don't believe that we are going into something that does not exist, I think that this thing already exists, right? Our progression is just going to be the illusion. So yes, I want to use the number line example. At the point of 0, the coffee is hot. At the point of 5, the coffee is cold. If I hold the number line out from me, I can see both points, 0 and 5. It's just that at 0, right, the coffee mug, or we're looking at the point in time in which the coffee mug is cold or hot. And what causes this coffee mug to be cold is going to be something external to the coffee mug itself. For example, air conditioning, cool air.
So are you ready for me to give like a judgment on the point and explain how my judgment is correct on this point specifically regarding the B theory, A theory shit?
Huh?
Or no?
What do you say?
Do you want me to give a judgment on the point, this point regarding theories of time? Because I don't even see how this actually is supportive of the major point that you guys should be focusing on. And I don't see how Like, do you want to give the judgment right now? Yes or no? It's your choice.
I want you to. If you're gonna give a judgment, can you judge over everything? I don't want to continue this anymore.
Well, the thing is, though, do we deem this point to be relevant? Because I deem it to be irrelevant.
No, not for me. I think because obviously in the argument I'm using, progression isn't really important, right? We're not looking at it from a temporal standpoint. So whether it's A theory or B theory, it doesn't matter. I think the reason why this point was brought up was because Archie tried to like involve some sort of contradiction of the idea of potentialities being something that does not yet exist. And I said, well, no, not in the B theory. So, yeah.
Wait, he was trying to invoke a contradiction in the idea that potentiality has yet to exist, or has existed, or it does exist. That's what you're saying? You're trying to say that it is contradictory. Okay. Okay, cool. I think, okay, so I'm not even going to say anything on that matter. That's up to you guys to hash out. But what is the point you're trying to prove currently?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to prove that the main point I'm trying to prove is just that change exists, and nothing cannot cause something. So the existence of brute contingencies is going to be impossible.
And you're saying that potentiality is an actual thing? You're saying that potentiality is not nothing, but it's not an actual thing, correct?
No, I'm saying potentiality is an actual thing, but if we look at, because obviously, like I said, time is a dimension.
No. You said verbatim that it is not an actual thing, but it is still a thing. You said this when you asked the question, which is, would you consider? Go for it.
Yeah, I just want to clarify what I meant, because once again, I don't want you to be confused. So I think my later elaborations.
I already am confused. You need to help me out, bro.
Yeah. I don't want you to be more confused. So when I say it's not an actual thing, I don't mean that it does not exist. That would be a total contradiction of what I've been arguing. Potentials, of course, exist. I said that a potential is a property. Properties are only assigned to existing things. It's something I said. So obviously a potential is going to exist. Yeah. If we just look at the time as a dimension, as a number line, it just wouldn't exist at this point in the number line. But it exists at another point in the number line. So it's never being, at any point, it's never being brought into existence. There is no temporal becoming, because it's always existed. Or always it exists within time, at all points. Or not at all points, but at all times.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to process everything. Okay, cool. Okay, understood. So, let's see. Chip chop. Okay, so basically what you're going to say is that nothingness entails the absence of potentiality.
Yes.
This seems to be a trivial definitional clash to me. Let's see. Where should I put this? This debate went from like 100 to 0 real quick. Holy fuck.
Apollo, can I just say something as well? Under his definition of nothingness, I already said
that. Actually, I'm going to take a piss. You guys can do whatever. Hold on, give me a sec.
But, well, while we're doing whatever, I'm just curious. Wait, see.
No, thank you. No, like, it's not even a joke.
Under your definition, you contradicted yourself 30 million times during this debate.
I'm just gonna local media.
30.
Honestly, no.
Under your definition of B-theorism, which you clearly have a construed definition, considering the fact under this theory, we're operating under a tenseless timeline, meaning past tense, future tense, present tense. These things are irrelevant because there are no distinct differences between these measures of time. Yet at the same time, you're denying the existence of potentiality within nothingness because it hasn't existed yet. What type of moronic bullshit? What? Why am I being perma-abused? I didn't even mute you. But
yeah.
You can check audit law, bro.
Are you asking me that if at a point in a number line nothing exists?
So tell me. There are points in where things do not exist, right?
No.
No? Even that's your whole point? That makes sense?
Wait. Actually, let me rephrase. There are points at which things don't exist. There are no points in which nothingness exists, as in true nothingness. No.
Now, I have a question. Have I not defined nothing? What I mean by nothing?
Yeah, your definition is not contradictory.
Yeah, you're so ignorant to where you can't even understand what I mean. Do you know how retarded you have to be to walk into a conversation and assume someone means what you mean, even though that just is not the case? Do you understand that? Do you understand how silly that is? I mean, see, come on. If you walk into a conversation and a girl asks, hey, What do you have? Like what's that jacket you have on? Are you gonna say that's not the definition of jacket? I mean, are you gonna stop her in her tracks and say, hey, I don't like that. I don't like that definition. This is actually a coat, not a jacket.
Okay.
Like, be
guys.
so objective with yourself. Do you understand how silly that is? I mean, be honest.
Wait, I'm back. So while I was taking a piss, I basically just discerned all the jibber jabber. So I understand the entailments from both points now. Okay, so if you guys are willing to continue the point, go ahead. But I have my judgment in my head.
I think we're finished with that theory point. I just want to address the nothingness.
Not only the theory point, but the potentiality point. But I'm pretty sure you guys are both unsatisfied in your guys' arguments or reason for both positions. So you guys can continue if you guys want the potentiality point and whether it's possible for nothing to cause something. Go for it.
Right. I just and there's just one more point I wanted to clarify on. So going back to the initial point, because this is probably the only extremely important point that you really made, that nothingness is incapable of producing anything or potentiality. So therefore, things that do exist have to have a cause. Now, I'm still confused behind the logic of this. I mean, well, think of it like this. If there was a point at where things just didn't exist, so if there was a point that things just completely didn't exist, right? We have a period of time to where there's a great silence. There's an absence of properties. Yeah. Right. We'd be assuming
the breath.
We'd be assuming, right? See, that at this point, things just came to existence by themselves, unless you're saying that there is everything that came to cause, except for one individual mover. Your presupposition of this point is right, because that presupposes your whole point, right?
Can you repeat that? I was in child in the folly.
Now listen, obviously, you're saying, right, that nothingness, this is incapable of producing things because of the lack of property. Now we understand. Right, and your answer to this is going to be whether I care about this point or not, because it's going to determine to me whether your point is important.
All right.
Now, are you saying that this is impossible and that everything came to exist except for one individual mover, meaning that one thing? Yeah, crazy. Your argument, the level 1 introductory theology argument. Now, you're saying that this one mover, this initial mover, that's the reason for everything, and that everything came almost like a domino effect. That's what you're saying, right?
All potentialities would be actualized.
Right. So if that's what you're saying, then I don't care too much about this point, because that's an argument within itself. So if that's what your whole thing is, then I don't care.
Yeah, Archi,
to argue this anymore.
The foundations.
Wait, if you don't care, like when you say you don't care to argue this anymore,
I mean that the whole. I mean, like in reference to whether nothing can produce something, that's completely fine. That's completely fine. I don't care if
you agree that it is impossible. Wait, just to be clear, you agree that it is impossible that nothing can cause something, right, Archie, or no? Like, just
I'd say I still don't think that impossible, because I don't know. It depends, because here. I don't think he clarified at all or explained why it's a contradiction. He more of just stated that it's a logical contradiction because of lack of properties, to which I put into question, why is it lack of properties a contradiction in the first place? Like, why would this hold posit for any reason to why it can't be?
He wasn't necessarily saying, to be fair, that nothingness or a lack of properties in itself is a contradiction. He's saying that if it was to be the case that nothing was to exist, then it would be a contradiction for there to be something which arises from this state of affairs. Which is not claiming that it is logically contradictory for nothing to exist, but is claiming that the state of affair of something being caused from nothing is impossible and it's logically contradictory.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Cool.
If that's the case, then I don't mind. As long as it's not being posited, as long as it's not being posited, has a logical contradiction, that's fine, because I don't think it really matters as much to this point. Now, what I really want to get into, if that's the case, now that your point has fully been made and pushed out, now you're assuming that there is a mover. Let's get to the real group of what your premise or your syllogism is. You're assuming that there is an initial mover and that there is a cause of the universe, correct?
That is in fact what I assume. Yes.
A first
That is
cause.
exact. You said that is what you assume.
I actually
Correct.
not assume because I have evidence for it, but you get the point.
That's. I was gonna say you might want to clarify that. Now, if that's the case, that this is something that you presuppose, where's your proof for this?
The proof is
That this universe had a first mover.
It's gonna entail a logical absurdity otherwise, isn't it?
No, you can go ahead and elaborate though.
Yeah. So obviously, I said at the beginning of the debate, but Edward Fazer makes a distinction between a linear causal chain and a hierarchical one. And so, while a linear causal chain can be something like, oh, Archie asked me for money. I say, hold on, I need to ask my bank. The bank says, hold on, I need to ask the other bank. Over and over and over again into infinity. That could be a linear causal chain. A hierarchical causal chain explains why a potential is going to be actualized at any point in time. So, in other words, a linear causal chain involves temporality or involves
You
like
just
progression.
didn't explain what a hierarchical chain is.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So a linear chain involves like the progression, but not actual progression. Obviously, just don't want to contradict myself. It involves like illusory progression. Whereas the hierarchical causal chain is just going to be, why is this potential being actualized at this point in time?
It's going to be a question. See?
No, I'm gonna explain it for him. So, because this was just a bad explanation overall, but he was definitely correct in the linear part. A hierarchical causal chain basically allows for the possibility of there being causality independently of time. That means, for example, David Lewis makes a good account for this confactualist theory, whereas it can have A and B. B is caused by A. Sorry for the voice crack. B is caused by A, but regardless of that, neither of these things are temporal objects, and there's no temporal progression. Simple.
Haiku told me this, by the way. W Haiku.
Anyways,
wait, what he said?
Like, even if this is the case, it doesn't.
No. I said Haiku told me about.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily matter. Regardless, I mean, that's what you think. Why does this at all prove that the universe had some type of cause?
Because while a linear causal chain doesn't necessarily need to, whether it has a first member or not is irrelevant. A hierarchical causal chain is noted in Edward Fazer's book. I'm going to keep quoting it so niggas know. In Edward Fazer's book, it's noted that hierarchical causal chains require a first member.
Why does it matter what that old fucker says? How does that address anything?
Essentially, it's just going to be that there needs to be something from which the actualization.
No, I heard what you said. It's going to need to be, but I'm asking why it needs to be this. I don't think you process that.
Why it needs to be this?
Yeah.
Okay, just to be clear. Okay. So Archie, what he's trying to say here is that under a linear.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. I don't.
No, Apollo can clarify.
No, wait.
No, I'm not giving an argument for you. See, don't worry. Archie, he's not really used to how you're articulating the point itself.
C is clearly being an ape right now.
No,
what did you say, Apollo?
No, wait. I don't.
He just keeps interrupting and yelling. What's wrong?
Yo, are you very ape?
Dude, C, do we have to mute you?
Oh my god, can I just
see you literally keep interrupting and like
Apollo,
aping.
I just don't.
Bro, C, why are you? Can you please relax?
Yeah, I'm relaxed.
You just keep aping. Like again, we don't want to.
I don't think you're relaxed, champ. I think you're interrupting way too much.
Relaxed.
I think he's a bit. I think he's having a temper tantrum.
I think a sign of a relaxed person is to allow everyone to speak and then wait until their turn.
Literally,
I promise.
I think you're just being very interruptive.
Can you moderate?
I can moderate 3 minutes.
This nigga keeps just talking.
Hey, Maki, can you please mute
him
while Apollo
explains? So wait, see, could I just relax real quick? I have interrupted Archie before to clarify your point. I've interrupted Archie before to clarify his point. I'm not being biased towards you or against you or anything. Okay, I just want to say to Archie that, and I'm actually helping you out on this one because he might actually catch you lacking based on how you articulate yourself. What he's trying to say is, what he's trying to say is when he says first member, he doesn't mean first member in the temporal sense, whereas there's the first thing, like the number one thing, and like this thing starts all the other things. He's saying this in the hierarchical sense, whereas, as I've said before, there's no temporal progression. So he could possibly grant an infinite regress under a linear sense of causality, but he's not operating under this sense of causality. That was all I wanted to clarify, so that C doesn't trip over his laces on this point. That's all I was trying to do.
Don't mute me because I'm curious about what Apollo's saying. Yeah. Wait, so what is he saying? Like, I'm confused.
He's not. Yeah, he's okay. So, like, for example, you know, like how someone would say, like, the domino effect, whereas obviously there's a first mover, and this first mover temporally precedes the other said the other things that are being moved insofar as this first mover started the effect or something like that, right? This is temporal progression.
So he's still saying that
Yes,
there is like a
he's not
first
going
mover.
under that specific example or concept. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm just putting the question why all there is a first mover. So when I was saying what's it called, like, hey, why would there be, necessarily, or why would it necessarily be the case that there has to be a first mover in his explanation? Like,
By
did
first
he ever
mover
give a
just means
refutation
all
against
things
this?
depends on this being, not that this being basically has caused or gave rise to this temporal thing, which there's this temporal.
Oh,
Apollo.
no, yeah, that's not what I'm
Apollo and
saying.
Archi.
I'm saying for this being the what's up?
Apollo and Archi.
Yo,
Yeah.
C was gonna actually say something. C, go.
I'm gonna just. I just want to say,
so-
I've been listening, Apollo. You've been clarifying a lot, but what I'm getting from C is that he didn't agree to you to specifically be a moderator, right? Did he agree to you him as a moderator?
No, I never agreed to Apollo being a moderator, bro. And this is what I mean. I just want to debate. Like, I've been trying to get the argument. I'm trying to tell Apollo, wait, chill, bro. I think I understand what he's saying now. And then niggas like, no, you're encouraging. Like, no, I just don't want him to make the point for me. But if you're gonna ask why it necessitates, right? What's it called? Or if you're gonna ask why it necessitates a first member in the sense that all potentialities are actualized by this thing, it's going to be the fact that potentiality is something that needs to be actualized by an already actual thing, which is the whole point. The whole point of nothingness being unable to cause is that everything has to come from something, right? So if I, pause the video that's playing right now and I look at all members, right? All members need to be actualized or by something. They need to depend on something actual. And thus it would entail a contradiction if reality is composed of entirely potential beings, because the thing that is actualizing them is not going to exist. And if nothing is actualizing them, why do they exist? It doesn't answer the question. So go ahead and respond, Archie. Go ahead. Let's speed this up.
Clearly, I don't know if Maki is like lacking in brain cells. But I'm gonna need him to repeat because you guys muted me and Apollo in the middle of his clarification. I didn't understand shit he said. So that's great moderation from Maki's part. But anyways,
just say this. So
elaborate again.
I'll just say this. So you being muted does not affect your ability to listen. When you're muted, it's usually for a reason. But all the argument is just going to be is just that the whole point of me saying that brute contingencies are impossible and that nothing has no causal power and thus cannot cause anything is to say that something must come from something else. All potentialities are going to be actualized by an already actual thing. And so thus it would follow that if we were to pause whatever this is, whatever reality is, and take a look at every single member, the potential for that existence, the reason as to why that thing exists is going to be actualized by something external to that thing, right? And so if there is no fully actual thing, if there's no pure actual thing, actus proofs, if that thing does not exist, then it's just going to be the case that it does not answer the question of why anything exists in the way that they do right now. It needs to be something that is not actualized by any potential. That's something that's purely actual that actualizes all other potentials. Otherwise, we fall into contradiction. Go ahead and respond.
Why is that the case? Because simply all I'm saying is that you didn't really, and I'll elaborate why you didn't. All this is just presupposing that in a sense there's going to be some type of stopping to the beginning of the universe, right? We're presupposing that there was some type of entry point. All I'm doing is offering a possibility that the universe has just simply always existed, always been infinitely progressing from an infinite beginning, which would be almost an oxymoron. So I'll clarify, rather than beginning, just its infinite existence. What's the problem with the universe infinitely existing, but then later on within that infinite existence, progressing something and producing something that every property within the universe can progress from?
Yeah. So
because you're saying that there needs to be some type of actual mover, some type of mover with the properties of, creation and existence and whatnot. And I think within the properties of the universe, this is something that's completely possible. I'm not exactly sure why anything what you said is necessary of there being an initial mover.
Yeah, so I disagree. I think that's just gonna sorry. So I disagree. I think that's just gonna be the most retarded refutation to the argument I just presented ever, right? So to posit the universe as this,
am I unmuted now?
always eternal, immutable thing is simply silly. So one of the things of actus purus is that actus purus, or the pure act, cannot have any potentiality. The universe clearly has potentiality because in every theory, the universe is expanding, right? Which means that at one point in time, whether you'll be theory A theory, at one point, the
See,
universe
I'm gonna cut you off there because I don't understand
no,
what
no,
you're
no,
saying.
no, no, no,
Yes,
no,
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
cut
no,
you
no,
off there because I
it's
don't know
fine. You're
what
not
you're
gonna cut me
saying.
off. I'm gonna finish my statement.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying.
I'm
Archie,
gonna
can
just
you hear me?
No,
continue.
you're not
Wait,
gonna. No, no, no.
previously before
Can I
C,
finish
when
what
you
I'm?
were talking about,
Can I finish? Can I
you know,
finish?
how
No,
apparently
I'm not gonna
the
allow you.
universe has this random
Can someone moderate?
Sakizuki,
beginning.
was
Can
that
someone
muted?
moderate?
I want
Can someone moderate?
clarification.
Can someone
C and
moderate?
Archie,
So what
wait, hold on there a
exactly
Can
do
second.
someone
you?
moderate? Can someone
What were
moderate?
you
Can someone
saying?
moderate? Can someone
Yeah,
moderate?
Sakizuki and
it's
Can you mute him?
crazy.
C and
Can
Archie,
you mute
wait,
him?
What
chill
do you
real
say?
quick.
Can you mute him?
Yeah.
Can you
Anyways,
mute
what do
him?
you say, Paulo?
Sakizuki,
Your
wait,
turn.
hold on, Archie. The next time I get muted, please unmute me. And if not, I'm just gonna not judge this debate, okay?
That's fine. Can you mute
C and
Apollo? Can
Archie.
you mute?
So,
Can you mute
anyways,
Archie?
C
what
and
were you
Archie.
saying?
You guys can conclude. I've already my judgment.
I'm curious because I
You
don't
guys are going in
know what he's
circles.
saying.
Yeah, I'll
I
explain
know
it
what
to you.
he's saying.
Stop cutting me off, bro.
Okay.
Stop cutting me off. So what I'm
Anyways,
saying is,
sure.
you
He
keep asking
said
me. Oh my
what?
God, you keep asking me.
You see,
Why
I'll
did you keep?
moderate, but you know, I'm not the moderator, so
Yeah,
Archie,
that's
keep on
fine.
cutting them
I don't
off.
care. That's fine. I like to get my argument.
You don't
Hold
care,
up.
so Archie,
keep
keep
Hold up.
cutting them
asking me.
off. Go for it.
You keep
Okay,
asking
wait.
me.
Okay, this is what
Oh
we're gonna do. Wait,
my
okay.
God.
Yo, oh my God. Do you want me to moderate or no? See,
Nigga just
like you
keep
just
talking.
bitched for a moderator. I went
Like, bro.
downstairs.
Can
I
you
went downstairs
moderate
to
then?
get
Like,
on my
bro.
PC to
Yo,
moderate, and then now you're
Sakizuki,
Moderate.
look,
bitching at
I'm
Can
not
you
me.
the
moderate
moderator,
then?
so you know, I should
Yeah,
Can you
I
not
know.
moderate
tell Archie
then?
what to do, right,
See,
guys?
I
Right,
just
chat?
went downstairs,
Oh my
right, to get
God.
on my
If
PC
I
to
was the
moderate for
moderator,
you,
Damn, why
and
you
you're
bitching
bitching
you,
at
bruh?
me.
Why you bitching
Can you
your
just
shit?
Sakizuki, if I was
can
the
you just
moderator,
moderate?
I'd
Oh
have
my
told Archie to
God.
shut up and to stop talking, make C talk. But you know, Archie, I'm not the moderator, so like you can
Oh
keep
my
cutting them
God.
off, right,
Can you
guys?
just moderate?
Okay,
Can
so
you
this
just
was going on.
moderate?
Hey, Archie, how about just let him finish his statement? And if you want clarification afterwards, we'll give you clarification. Let's just try to progress this because we're just going back and forth for no
Go
fucking
for it.
reason.
Wait, who's
Right?
gonna give him clarification? I'm not
No,
gonna give
I'm
him
giving the
clarification.
clarification.
Remember,
Yeah,
C
I
doesn't
don't
agree
want
to
your
me as a
clar.
clarifier.
Yeah, thank
He doesn't
you,
agree,
thank
to,
you.
agree to me as a
Please
moderator
do
either.
not
So
taint my argument if you're Jamaicanness, bro. Please. Okay. The whole argument is
what?
just gonna be
Wait,
Archie
wait.
keeps
I'm
asking
confused.
me.
Don't
What
let
was
that
that
slide,
Can
but
you
don't
mute?
let
Can
that
you mute him?
slide.
Sakazuki mute him. Sakazuki mute him. Mute
I
him,
don't
bro.
even know what he even said. Like, what do you?
Can you
Don't
mute
let
him?
what slide? What do you even say?
Can
Apollo,
Like,
you
I
mute
just
just
him?
let
heard
it
Jamaican.
slide.
He was
Can
Apollo,
you
it's
mute him?
dissing you.
fine.
He was
That
dissing for
nigga's
being
taking for the
Jamaican.
accent to
Can you
drown
mute
and
him?
try to
Stop
insult
Can
instead of
you
the
instigating.
word
mute him?
Jamaican. Like,
Can you
I'm
mute him?
Apollo,
confused.
just drop
Can you
it.
mute him?
Apollo, I don't
Why
want
is
to
he
mute
bitching
you.
about me
Just
Yeah.
drop
getting muted?
it.
Like, what did he bitch?
Can you
He
mute him?
just made a he
Just
just made
drop
a shit
it.
on
Can you
Let
mute
him
person,
him?
talk.
and now
I
he's
don't
No,
want to
muted.
it's
mute
What is he
you,
good.
Tú
doing?
Just
Apollo.
What is he
listen.
doing?
Just tell C to continue.
eres muto. Tú eres muto. Okay, that's fine. So
He can't
Good.
even
keeps
speak it properly.
asking.
Stop dropping
Maki,
He
it.
asks.
shut up, bro.
He keeps
Goodness
asking me
gracious.
Maki's,
why
why
the
are you
case.
even giving that guy attention,
Oh
bro? That
my
guy's
Listen,
like a
just
God.
smooth
go,
retard.
go,
He
go. It
keeps
doesn't matter. It
yeah.
doesn't matter.
So
Go.
he keeps asking me why is it the case that we need a purely actual first mover that all other things that have potentiality depend on. I explained this before. I'm going to explain it again. Potentiality just means
No.
Oh my God.
potentiality.
Okay, Apollo, I'm gonna mute you, bro. Like I can't. Like you can't. Like
Yeah. Potentiality just
Good.
simply means potentiality
Hey,
just simply
Apollo.
means that
I'm bad.
potentiality just simply means that something exists in or something that can exist or could exist, right? And so if something can or could exist, right, and nothing cannot cause something, then everything has to come from something else, right? Now, the reason why this chain cannot be infinite is because if I was to pause, right, and look at this chain, you need to give an explanation for why all of these potentialities are being actualized. If the explanation for why all of these potentialities are being actualized is like a potential or a first mover that has a potentiality, you then need to explain why that potential is being actualized. So the only way to ground all of these potentialities at the same time, right? Because I'm looking at it from a non-temporal perspective, not a temporal perspective where there's progression, but a non-temporal perspective. The only way to ground all of these actualities is going to be in a purely actual mover. Also, give me a second.
No, I
Okay,
understand.
so I'm
You're
gonna
good. That's
unmute
just
Apollo
retarded.
now. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so like, could you guys please, like Archie, please just force conclusions after this ramble, please. I'm begging you, please, cause I don't want to hear the same reiteration of the same
I
explanation
mean, I
again.
agree with Apollo. If Apollo's your judge and he says he
Because I
has a
already have my
verdict,
judgments on
regardless of
this, and
what
it's
you're
not gonna progress. It's gonna be the same thing over and over. I
yeah,
already have my
if
judgment.
he already has a verdict and y'all are just going back and forth, just conclude, bro. There's no point of like.
Oh, it's because
continuing
now
that.
I understand. I
This
mean,
is what
but
happens. I'm
this is
pretty
just so
certain that
confusing.
pretty
I mean, if he's
certain.
still saying,
The problem is
for
he
it.
isn't
Wait.
concise. He isn't concise in what he says, so then it's hard to,
Bro,
like-
the reason why he's not concise is because he doesn't understand the argument.
Yeah,
He doesn't
because if he's
actually read the
saying
book.
if
He
he's
doesn't
saying
read the
that
book.
there's an initial, what does that have to do at all? What the fuck?
Look. Just wait until I give my judgment. So once he agrees to conclusions or maybe judgments, then I'll give my judgment and my explanation for it. Pretty simple.
Yeah, you can think that, bro.
Wait, if there were properties,
Yo,
What do you
Infinity,
mean by I
check
can
chat.
think that
On
I'm
the
the judge,
universe.
nigga? What do you
Hey,
think, Infinity?
Apollo,
What are you
Apollo,
doing?
look at your server. Ping Moxie. I'm ready to debate the topic.
Ooh, okay, bro.
Never said
For
that shit.
one, Infinity, invite me. For two, check chat. Ping you.
All right, well, let me see.
It is a
Me too, I
private
wanna
server. Wait,
No,
wait,
in the
you're
server
already there in the
chat. Oh my
private.
god.
No, I see it.
yeah, if this potential is realized, he would also just be presuming that everything that is actual needed potential at one point, which wasn't the clarification that we gave.
I
That's
had
just
my
retarded.
AirPods. I had my
Alright, go
AirPods
ahead.
in, and I sly heard, the dick eat from Apollo. He doesn't actually read the book. Anyways, shut the fuck up, bitch.
Dick eats.
Go ahead, Archie.
Wait, am I muted?
Yeah, I
No,
don't
you're
think.
not.
I don't think. Now that I'm fully understanding
I
your argument,
cannot
I don't
wait
think
to
anything
piss
you
on this
said
guy
properly
after Archie's
addresses what I
judgment.
said.
Holy shit.
Yeah, what did you say?
I'm
Go
just
ahead.
so eager. Oh my god.
What did you
Go
say?
for
Go
it.
ahead,
Oh,
Archie.
we can go to conclusions, bro.
Yeah, what did you say? Can you repeat it?
I already did previously.
That's going to be plain.
You're not Infinity. We can push to conclusions.
Yeah,
Anyways.
you're not him, bro.
Yeah, you're gonna repeat what you said. I don't see why an argument that I didn't
I'm
hear.
gonna do what?
Yeah, I said,
That is anti-rhetoric.
I
Holy
don't-
shit.
anyways, I said I don't see
Yeah, you
why
can
an
think
argument
that.
I
You
didn't
can think
hear is
that.
going to be factored into the conclusions.
I think you're schizophrenic because you were
I
right
think
there
this
when
guy
I
just
said my
mumble jumbled.
argument.
Like, what is he doing?
No.
Can I just like give the judgment real quick against explain it before he thinks I'm biased?
No, I want him to repeat his argument first.
He didn't give an argument. He was about
Wait,
to, but then
what
he
are
was
you
like,
talking
let's go to
about?
conclusions. He didn't give an
I'm
argument.
just saying. I think that regardless, there's a lot of things you're presupposing that I already put into
Yeah, that's all he
question.
said.
That's all.
Such
But-
as?
Yeah. I don't need to clarify. I'm just gonna let
Yeah.
you assume
Okay.
these things and then
Okay.
clarify afterwards.
That's
Go ahead.
fine. I'll just address.
Because I already put it into
the-
question.
Yeah, I'll just address the potential presuppositions that I'm making. So
Okay.
before I
I think that's irrelevant.
So before I do this, I don't understand how Archie
So,
expects
Moderation and Apollo.
I'm not the moderator, so you
He's
cannot
not
blame me
a-
this time.
He's not
Yeah,
I'm not the
addressing
moderator.
anything
Remember
that
you told me I'm
I'm
not the moderator?
saying. He's just
You cannot blame
ranting.
me and some
He's not
bias.
making any new points. He's just
Archie,
attacking
Archie,
nothingness.
please, Archie, please,
Bro,
Archie.
okay. Wait. Do you have a new point to put forth, or do you like? Are you cool?
He
with
said-
He
concluding?
doesn't.
No,
He
wait,
doesn't.
Soccer,
All the potential
wait.
presuppositions that Archie's talking about is quite literally the ones that he addressed in his long-winded explanation. He has nothing else to add. Could I give my judgment, please? Because I'm not gonna wait 18 more minutes for this motherfucker to say the same point over and over and over. I got things to do.
Can you answer? Wait, hold up.
Please.
Apologies. Let me answer my
Please.
question. Do you have something new to say or no?
I don't know what potential presuppositions he's talking about, which is why I wanted
He's
to
talking about the same things, like for example, the fact that there's a contradiction in an infinite regress. Track, please. You're so
Okay.
slow. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's okay. That's
Fuck.
anyways. I had to go do something. So what the fuck? And he said that there are a bunch of them.
Oh my goodness, bro. Are you sped? He
Why is this
just
guy
said
so
that there's
autistic?
nothing that I addressed that is new. See? Do you understand what that means? What the word new means? That means you were here speaking to me while I said them. You spedtard. So can you push to conclusions instead of acting like a moron and trying to attack air? You schizophrenic reject.
Yeah,
Go to conclusions.
We can conclude, Archie.
God damn, nigga.
We can conclude.
Yeah, we know. Just go and conclude. Holy fucking shit. He said
Okay,
like 3
so-
times.
My conclusion
Fuck.
is just going to be Archie asked, why is it the case that, this thing can't be infinite? I said that linear regress implies, temporal progression, as in these things continuously go on and on and on. I'm saying that that's not the type of regress I'm talking about, or that's not the type of causal chain I'm talking about. I'm talking about hierarchical one. A hierarchical one doesn't require temporality to be understood. All it's going to be is, why are these potentialities being actualized in this way at this specific point in time, right? And I gave an explanation for why. If the explanation for why all these other potentialities are going to be actualized at this specific point of time is going to be a potential existence, then you're not answering the question, because we're then going to ask, well, what actualized this potentiality? And it's going to go back into the same
Your bitch
linear
ass up.
causal regress, not a hierarchical one. And so I think I explained why all potentialities must be grounded in an actual or purely actual existence. That's my conclusion.
Yeah, I think that's just
Cool,
silly.
champ.
So since this is a conclusion on the rest of this, I'm just literally just gonna explain. So previously, at least for this point in the beginning, we already agreed that change is the actualization of potential. Now, initially, I already stated that, or not even really stated, but I put into question, what's the contradiction with the universe existing forever? Now, he's told me there's a difference between a hierarchical chain, linear chain, etc., etc. Now, I put into question already previously about the hierarchical chain. Why would we even be applying to this? Which is his reasoning for this being unsufficed was just an explanation of who said it. To which I told him, why would I care, quote unquote, about what an old man thinks? To which he moved on and said he already previously explained, which he didn't. Now, even if we were to assume that this is the case afterwards, he also put into question why exactly, or what exactly would be the mover and the progressor for everything that is actualizing potential within the universe. I told him that there could be a universe within the universe, the infinitely progressing universe that has always been here under this theory. There could be things within the properties of this universe that are actualizing this potential. I don't see why there needs to be an initial mover at the very beginning of the universe. There is no contradiction with things within the universe causing potentiality for things within the universe. Argument follows via. Now, again, clarified already previously.
Your internet is tripping.
Archie, you're bugging out.
Yeah, we cannot hear you.
What's it called? Even if there were to be this infinite leaping universe, it would still be a contradiction under his logic.
Archie, you're bugging out.
We cannot hear you.
Using,
Hello? I don't think he can hear us.
You have to kick him from the
Someone
PC.
disconnect Archie and make him rejoin.
We did not hear you.
You're bugging out. Like
we did not hear you. You
ago.
just lagged the entire like for the last back half of that.
Wait, what?
Can you hear us?
You lagged out for the back half of your conclusion.
Yeah, like 3 sentences ago. Yeah.
But then that's tragic. I'm not repeating.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll just give my judgments. Well, before I even give my judgments, I'll just explain the points that are being argued on before I give the final judgment, because I don't want to get accused of being biased. So obviously in the first point, they argued over potentiality, right? And whether in the indispensable factor of causality or causal relations, right? I guess they both agreed that it is impossible for nothing to actually come from something, which progressed C's point. However, on the latter part, where C was supposed to be proven that there is some logical contradiction and there being an infinite regress without a first mover, he said that, or basically kind of like clarified, I should say, that he was not going under a linear progress or a linear chain. He's going under a hierarchical chain of causes, right? And he was trying to establish a contradiction in there being an infinite regress of dependence relations or causes insofar as there's not the first mover or first cause. But his explanation for this is by saying that, well, it wants to explain any potentiality existing if there is an infinite regress. Well, asking a question regarding the explanatory basis of the contrary is not the same as proving that the contrary is contradictory. So C actually failed to provide any reason as to why it's contradictory, and repetitively said that it is necessary for there to be a first mover. But again, for it to prove that something is necessary, to prove that there's a contradiction in denying it, which Archie has asked for on numerous occasions. So
that wasn't my argument.
You did present any P and not P. And I know you're the type of person. I know that you're the type of person who copes with accurate explanations by saying it's not your argument because you don't actually have any good rebuttal or responses. But it was in fact your actual argument. You did in fact say this word for word that it is necessary, and that you asked him for a reason as to why anything would exist. if there's been infinite regress of potentials or causes.
Yeah, I asked him. Okay, yeah, I asked him.
Okay, so it was your argument. What are you talking about?
No, that wasn't my argument. Even Marky's saying that was.
So
Mark,
now you're saying that you're wrong when you said that it wasn't my argument.
I'm trying to explain that wasn't my argument. Even Marky's saying it's not my argument. And
but you just agreed that it wasn't your argument.
I'm saying I asked him the question. That
even Maki is basically, just to translate what you're saying, just said even a retard who doesn't even understand philosophy that well said that wasn't your argument.
Wait, okay, hold on. Apollo, let him.
Why are you gonna ask me to be disrespectful?
It's not my.
I'm not gonna be disrespectful.
It's not my
This guy was being
argument.
disrespectful
Let me
initially.
explain my argument. So Sakazuki, or not Sakazuki. Anyways, the argument I presented was not that.
This guy is like tripping.
How is it gonna? Oh, he's so annoying, bro. Can anyone just like what the hell? Anyways, the argument is not going to be that, oh, how can this thing exist then? No, that was not the argument, right? The argument that I presented was just that this. While a linear causal chain involves temporality, a hierarchical causal chain does not involve temporality. If I pause the video, which is what I said like 8 times, and if I pause the video, I pause all progression, and we look at every single member of this set, and we ask ourselves, what does this thing depend on? It cannot. Keyword cannot depend on a potential thing, because when we look at this potential thing, we then have to ask, well, what does this potential thing depend on, right? And if this potential thing depends on something else, that's going to involve progression. But the causal chain I'm not talking about is not a progressive causal chain; it's a hierarchical one. Hence why I said that all potentialities have to be at one point in time.
Do you understand why that was a contradiction?
Actual thing. Fully actual thing, actus purus is what I said. That's not that. What Apollo said is a complete misconstruence, distortion of my argument, contortion.
I'm gonna unmute Apollo. Wait, hold on. Let him argue with Apollo since Apollo gave his verdict, Archie.
Sure.
Okay, so am I unmuted?
Yep.
Nah.
So he has nothing else to add on the table. Cool. So now that you're finished with the little skits about tangent, okay, the point of the matter here is when you said a while ago that you said, or your argument is, and you started it off by saying that a linear chain of causes goes under a temporal progression, unlike a hierarchical chain of causes. That's not an actual argument for there being a contradiction. That's just you clarifying the differences between the concepts of hierarchical causal chain and the linear causal chain. That's just number one for you. That's the first wrong point you made, right? The second wrong point you actually made, all right, not even the second wrong point, but more specifically the misunderstanding you had regarding whether you prove the point or not, is simply when you said that in your argument, you said that under a hierarchical chain, it cannot be the case that there's not the first cause. That is just synonymous to saying that it is not possible for there to be a infinite regress, right? And that just begs the question viciously against the position that Archie's putting into question, really, right? Which is to say that why is it impossible? So when you're talking about something like logical impossibility or something being necessarily true, right, what you have to do there is show why the contrary is contradictory by showing the P and not P. You did not present any two propositions which are entailed from an infinite regress, which would entail, as a result, that it is in fact logically possible. The only thing you said, per your own words, even in your own explanation a couple seconds ago, is that you claimed that hierarchical causal chain and linear causal chains are different, and that it cannot be the case that there's an infinite regress under a hierarchical series of causes.
Are you done?
Me stop speaking is a social cue for you to continue speaking.
Okay, that's fine. So essentially, no. The contradiction that I presented is just going to be the fact that if the first member or if this chain of causal events terminates at a potential being, right, then the chain has not yet actually terminated, because this potential being that is the quote-unquote first member still depends on something to exist, right? In order for this chain to terminate, and in order for all of the members' existences to be justified simultaneously, that's the contradiction I'm positing. If any member's existence is not justified at that specific point in time, then the chain cannot exist, because they all depend on each other to exist, right? And if the existence is not justified, then it does not exist. Okay?
Wait, pardon. So you said that. So the first part you said. Could you repeat the first part?
Yes, exactly. Okay, I'll do it for you. Okay. The whole argument is just going to be this. If a causal chain, a hierarchical causal chain, terminates at a being that has potentiality, right, we're going to have a contradiction. A hierarchical causal chain is going to be
how is that entailed from an infinite regress?
Yeah, I was gonna explain. Let me finish. A hierarchical causal chain, right, is going to just be a dependence relation between members. So if I pause all progression, if I pause temporality, hit the spacebar, right, and we look at each member of the chain down to the first member, which is going to be a potential existence. That
That's
potential
not even
existence needs to
entailed
be
from an infinite regress. It contradicts the whole ideology of the possibility of an infinite regress.
No. I let you talk. You're not gonna overtalk me. That's another social cue. So, anyways, if
That's
we
not
look
even
at
what social
each,
cue means in that
yeah,
context, by the way.
anyways, if we look
That's
at
not how I use the
each,
term.
anyways, if we look at each member of
And
this
you're not
causal
D1
chain,
also.
if we look, anyways, if we look at each member, so
You're
back to
still
what
trying
I
to be
was saying.
D1. Stop trying to
So
be
back to
him.
what I
You're
was
not him.
saying. Sarkozy, can you
And you're
moderate,
still
bro?
trying to be D1. Another
Back
D1
to what I
phrase.
was saying. Back to what I was saying. Sarkozy, can
You're
you
not
moderate,
D1.
though? Back to what I was
Wait,
saying. Can you moderate?
Yeah, he got muted by someone else.
Yeah, Apollo, you're huge, by the way. You're fat and ugly, and you have no future career in the actual world.
Irony is
But what I was going to
hilarious.
say was, if we look at it, yeah, anyways, if we look at the causal chain at any point in time, not in like a progressive point, or as in we watch it progress, but if we look at it at any point in time, the existence of each member has to be actualized. Okay, so thus the first member for this causal chain cannot be a potentiality, because if it is a potentiality, right, then its existence is not actualized, right? If it's a potential existence, then its existence is not going to be actualized at that point. It needs to be actualized by something else. Hence why the logical contradiction is going to be that if it consists of only potentialities, it does not solve the issue of why each member exists in that specific form at the same time. Your argument is not contradicting my own. Please track. Go ahead.
Who wants to debate veganism?
Okay, so that was like a pathetically ridiculous explanation, sadly. Firstly, and before this guy tries to reject his own words and what he said verbatim that each member in the set of causes has to be actualized, right? That's what he said word for word. Everyone is actually tuning into this VC heard him say this. Now, look, I'm just going to hold him accountable for this claim and show why him saying this does not actually contradict the possibility of an infinite regress, right? So the reason why it does not contradict the possibility of an infinite regress is simply because it is not entailed from an infinite regress that the first member is a potentiality, nor is it even entailed that there even is a first member in the set of causes under an infinite regress. None of these things are entailed under the possibility of an infinite regress. In fact, one could posit that it is possible that there's an infinite set of actual members, right, without the first member. And that would not conflict with him saying that each member has to be actualized, because someone who is positing or advocating for an infinite regress possibility can say that, yes, I agree with you that each member has to be actualized, but there's just going to be an infinite regress of actualized members. How is that going to be conflicting with the possibility that Archie's presented? You're just lost in the sauce, bro.
Are you done? Okay, no. So that was a horrible contention, like straight horrible. So obviously, when
I'm not gonna get into rhetoric points for saying that,
yeah. Anyway, so
just
when
a
I
pro
say
tip.
potential, but anyway, so when I say potential versus actual, I mean actual as in it exists at that point, and potential exists as in it does not exist at that point. So thus, if the member or if the first member of this set is going to be a potential thing, it does not exist at that anyway.
Go for
the first sucks. Can you? We're gonna keep doing this whole "can you mute him" thing until he learns to just not overtalk people while they explain it. So, anyways, as I was trying to say, I keep showing this like dichotomy, right? I keep trying to show the absurdity of this argument. I think Apollo's diverging or diverging from like the verdict a bit because Archie did not argue this. But aside from that, if we look at this causal chain, right? Keep in mind, my whole argument is that an infinite regress does not apply to hierarchical causal chains, and it cannot exist in a hierarchical causal chain. Me saying that infinite regress, for example, in epistemic regress, would not have a first member, for example, or in a temporally causal regress does not have a first member. It's just like shitty because I'm not talking about any of those regresses. I'm talking about hierarchical one. Within a hierarchical one, if the first member is going to be potential, right? If we pause progression, if the first member identified is going to be a potentiality, as in its potential is being actualized by something else. So that's what it means to be potential, right? It has to be actualized by something else, right? Then if we pause and this first member's potential, that means that without something else, without a previous member, its potential cannot be actualized. And this thing will keep on going. And if we observe this set, therefore, and we look at each member and we try to figure out why each thing exists in the way that it does at that specific time, we will not reach an answer without a purely actual being. If it's composed entirely of potential beings or beings that depend on other beings, and we pause and we look at each member of the set, It's not going to solve the question of why do these beings all exist at the same place at the same time? Why do they exist in the same form? Why does the water exist as H2O and not O and H, right? Why does it have this specific bond? Like, it doesn't answer the question. I'm saying that this question needs to be answered. It's a necessity. And so I don't think I've said anything new. And Paul, if you have nothing else to say, we could just move on and wait for Marky's judgment. That's fine. I don't care.
I think me and the audience would see eye to eye on this, like the vast majority of audience would see eye to eye on this, that your articulation was pretty poor, really poor. And it was just a long-winded explanation which amounts to nothing, right? It's funny you mentioned that you're talking about an epistemic regress. You mentioned epistemic regress, which is completely irrelevant to the actual discussion or debate that you guys had, because when you guys are talking about a regress of causes, that would not be an epistemic regress. That would be a metaphysical regress, right? When you're talking about causes, you're not talking about justificatory reasons. You're talking about causes insofar as things which exist in reality, which gives rise to other things. Just another education on that point too, because you can't even distinguish epistemic regress from metaphysical regress. Now, the other point I'd like to make clear is that the thing that you said with respects to the necessity for a member to be actualized, right? That thing is not incompatible with any person who is advocating for the metaphysical possibility of there being an infinite regress, right? But sadly, you're ignorant of this, and if you are actually knowledgeable enough to be aware of the fact that this is not incompatible with it, you either presented a refutation which was actually substantial, but you didn't present any refutation of that sort. Now, to wrap this up real quickly, because I think I'm going on for too long, I don't want to go on as long as like see the schizo Balber over here. To wrap this up, the point of the matter here is that when you say that each member has to be actualized, the person advocating for such or the infinite regress can simply say that, yes, I agree with this. However, right, it is going to be the case that there's an infinite regress of such members who are going to be actualized. And they can also agree that the previous member is going to have obviously have to be something which is actualized insofar as that thing relies on the previous member which is actualized, but then they'd also say that there's an infinite regress of that process. So nothing you're saying actually conflicts with the possibility or refutes the possibility of an infinite regress. And nothing you say actually proved that it is logically contradictory for there to be an infinite regress and there to be a necessary fact regarding there being active sphericity called it.
Done. So Apollo can't track clearly. He keeps saying infinite regress, infinite regress, infinite regress. I limited infinite regress to a purely temporal concept. When we look at infinite regresses, and this is the analogy I used in the debate, if Archie asked me for money, says, yo, let me get like, I don't know, $100, bro. And I say, all right, bet.
Could you use a better analogy, please?
Thank you. And then my friend says I need to ask my friend. And then my friend says I need to ask my friend. And then my friend says I need to ask my friend. This involves progression because this thing is progressing and it's growing larger and larger and larger. That is what an infinite regress is. It's funny how you tried to educate me on metaphysical impossibilities and epistemic infinite regress when I pointed out.
That's
when
not what I educated you on metaphysical possibility.
When an epistemic regress is still going to be an infinite regress, right? An infinite regress just shows that this thing can continue on and on forever. It doesn't posit an actual infinite. And so when I respond by saying, if we pause the progression of this infinite regress and we look at each member of this set, the existence of each of these members has to be justified. If it is not justified, then this set cannot exist. The only way for this set to be justified is by the existence of an actus purus, purely actual being. I don't know what I have to say, and it has to be purely actual, right? Otherwise, we run into a contradiction, right? And you keep pointing out that, oh yeah, but it's not incompatible. You could agree, right, with the existence of an infinite regress and still deny that, that it's just chatter. You're not actually responding to what I'm saying. You're just giving potential contentions that Archie never offered once in the debate. You're arguing for Archie. You're
not even
like,
close.
I don't know, fucking actual infinites and XYZ. You cannot show me wherever Archie said this in the point or in the topic. So no, we can stop discussing.
You know, I have. Wait, hold on. So if I show you, show me the specific point. Wait, hold on. Show me the specific. Wait, chill. Show me the specific point.
I just want to address something.
And I'll get wrecked for you.
Thank you, Archie.
I swear to God, I'll get wrecked.
Yo, Archie, am I unmuted?
Yeah. I was gonna say, I'll literally just get wrecked.
So within the whole bunch of like